Hey everyone, back with another video, and this time I wanted to make a video between the saber things of a piece that I kind of actually had forgotten about, or not forgotten about, but forgot to make a video about. And that would be this year HF Armory HEMA Tournament Sail Dagger. Okay, so first and foremost, formalities out of the way as per usual. HF Armory, Historical Fencing Armory, was not aware that there was going to be a review. I paid for this with my own money. Then, the general structure of the video will be the same as always, meaning there will be, after the formalities here, my talking bit where I talk about why I got it, the ordering process, stats, and then things I liked, maybe I didn't like, and then the conclusion. There will be timestamps down in the description to all these different parts, so if you want to jump around or just look at different pieces, then that's what they're there for. Feel free to do so. Okay? So, then, let's get on with it actually, the actual video. The reason for me for getting this, why did I get this? Well, I had an older dagger of theirs and I noticed that they changed their design. Some time ago actually, but when we did our second club order I thought it would be a good opportunity to just check that out. And I also never had a sail dagger, so that's also something that I just wanted to see how it behaves and how it is in fencing. All in all, really just I got it because I was curious, not necessarily needed it because I'm not really a rapier guy, but I just wanted to check it out. The ordering process in and of itself was okay with a caveat. So, Historical Fencing Armory have a good webpage, and as this was a bigger club order, I collected all the things that people wanted, I checked it out on the webpage, and then I contacted them by Facebook, and there we hashed out all the details of just what we wanted, the rebate we got because of it, then paying, tracking info, all that. Generally quite responsive, needed to check back a time or two, but all in all, fine. What didn't go as well this time was actually getting the stuff. They sent it in 2 parcels. The first one went through fine, but the second one was caught by customs. The one where all the blades were into, and customs, or someone, not necessarily customs, but someone at the airport didn't like what they saw in the parcel or read on the description, which meant that I actually had to do a customs declaration, and that was a bit of a nightmare. If you ever are in the position in Germany that you have to do that, know that while the resources on the actual web page are not necessarily helpful, there is help out there. You can find YouTube videos that help you with it, and there's a number that you can call, and while the resources on the page and the page itself isn't very good, really, the people on call, the people that you reach with that number, they are really quite helpful. And together with the online resources from other people on YouTube and stuff, we managed to just figure it all out, hash it all out. The customs agent in the office itself was also really quite nice, so that all worked. But it was a bit of a painful process. Not necessarily the fault of Historical Fencing Armory. I can't really say if it was the labeling because I wasn't there. They couldn't really give me a reason why this one was flagged in particular, but yeah, that's just how it went, really. Then in the end though, when I got this, what did I get when I finally got to hold it in my hand? Well, this is a modern piece, of course. It's not supposed to emulate any historical, it's not a recreation of anything. This is a modern tournament parrying dagger, sail dagger. It's overall 62 centimeters long, and of those 62 centimeters, 44.8, 45-ish centimeters is just the blade. The grip then is 12 centimeters, and then you have a few more centimeters of the pommel. The cross is 28 centimeters wide and is of 6mm stock material. Not the thickest, but certainly sturdy enough for what I've done with it so far, really. You have a sail that gives the dagger form its name, of course. It's 16 centimeters at the cross, and then it slims down to 2. And you also, on the other side, have a ring, which I found a bit curious, that you have both. It's then 6 centimeters wide, and it protrudes. It's about 4 centimeters out. from the cross. If we're looking at more details for the grip, then it's flat, 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters, pretty much all the way. But it's at the base, at the cross, it's about 29-ish millimeters, and then at the middle it goes down to 26-ish, and then it's a bit more aggressive to 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters here. And looking at the blade, we have a taper of 2 centimeters, 20 millimeters at the cross, and then to the middle of the blade it slims down to 40 millimeters, and then it's 8 millimeters before the point, and same for the point, 8 millimeters. And if you look at the distal taper, it's 4 millimeters at the base, it slims down to 3 millimeters at about the middle, and then it's 2 millimeters just before the rolled tip, and the rolled tip goes out to 5 millimeters. All in all, quite thin, really. It has a total weight, and it's a bit, because of the form and everything, it's a bit hard to weight on a scale, but it should be about 630-ish grams. And one thing that I found curious, I mean, there's a reason for that, but the POB is in the grip. It's a rather thin light blade, and there's a whole bunch of metal in the grip, and that is, if I were to, if you know, giving it a number, it's about minus 1.8 centimeters. It's about 2 centimeters into the grip. So much for the stats. Then how did it behave? Normally I'll just, you know, put all the conclusion at the end, but I think this time it's worth just putting a bit more to the front load everything a bit. This is a fine piece, I'd say. It's a modern tournament dagger, parrying dagger, and for that I'd say it serves its purpose. But there are some things I noticed, some are more functional, some are a bit of a mix of both, and some are more cosmetic, really, that I think are worth getting into talking about. First and foremost, it's very hard to get the flex right for a short blade like this. Either it's too wobbly or it's too stiff. This one is on the stiffer end. It does have some flex, but as always with shorter blades, you really have to take care when thrusting. I mean, you always are supposed to do that, but you know, there's very little room for error with that one here, I'd say. And that combines with it having a rather slim tip, right? This is rolled, but yeah, 8 millimeters times 5 millimeters. Depending on what your stance on tipping is, you should probably or could consider putting a tip on it, really, to give it just a bit more surface area. Now, it's a parrying dagger, of course, but I've seen some people who put more emphasis on the dagger part rather than the parrying part. So just, you know, take care, be aware of what this is, really. Another thing is that the edge is also rather thin. This is 2 millimeter edge. It's a diamond cross section, pretty straightforward. Now, for what I did so far, parrying in more thrust work against something that isn't too heavy in the blade itself, you know, the GDF rapier, it held up fine, but I think if you were to, I don't know, try to fight a silver guy with a broadsword, then you would probably get some pretty serious nicks rather quick in this blade. That is worth keeping in mind, I think. Then another thing that I had, because I got a number of these and I had to check for completeness of the order, I thought I might as well just put them all together. And one thing that I noticed is that on this set of daggers here, really, the threading was a bit hit and miss. Good enough for all of them to come together, but sometimes it was really quite hard to find the point or to get a good grip on the threading with the pommel and screw it on right. In some parts it was really a bit iffy, and I wasn't quite sure if I was maybe more digging into the threading than actually going with it. As I said, they all come together fine, but in quality control wasn't perfect on these, I'd say. Then Another thing to consider is, that's more cosmetic really, the diamond section. The fit, because this is all machined, the fit of the tang into the cross is really quite nice and quite precise, up until the point where it kind of actually matters. This part here of the blade that actually is sitting, you know, where the cross is, because the thing is that the diamond shaping extends into the tang, more or less on some pieces, and that makes it kind of hard to really align the blade with the cross. Sometimes it can just be really quite turned, depending on how you screw it on. Now that's more cosmetic. For what we do here, it doesn't really matter, I'd say, but it's something that I noticed and that irked me a bit. Of course, you can just put some material between it, you know, just a short metal piece, a bit of wood, and that makes it flat again, and that works out fine, but it's just something to notice, something that I found curious. I guess it just has to do with shaping the blade and making that easier. But it's really quite interesting. It fits perfectly fine up until the point where it kind of matters, really. Another thing is that the matte coating here really picks up surface rust rather easily. You can see it at the end of the sail here, at the white part, and also at the thinner part. Not quite sure if the camera picks it up, I'll post pictures. And it's surface level only, and it doesn't really matter as much. It's a workpiece, but really quite easy to collect rust if you're not paying attention. So, and of course it's a matte finish, so if you polish it off, then you polish off the finish. Not quite sure what that's about. The older pieces from the material that they used didn't have a problem with that, but these here do rust, really. Then one thing that is kind of a mix between functional and cosmetic is that ring here. I found that a bit curious. I'm not the biggest expert on anything rapier really, but I do know some pieces just looking at museums and online museum collections, and they basically all either wear a sail dagger or a ring dagger. This is both. And I'm not sure if that's a thing that really happened. I don't know. I don't think I've come across it really. But that might just be me and my exposure. Thing is, for me, for using it, I like to put my finger on the blade from time to time, and there the ring actually kind of gets more in the way. That being said, I know this is a modern design for modern purposes. It's a tournament dagger that has its own requirement, and it's not trying to emulate anything historic. It's not a failing of the piece, and for that it does protect your thumb just from sliding cuts. So maybe it's intentional and it's just a bit of extra. I found it curious. And another thing that really is more personal than anything else is the POB. This one is in the grip, 2 centimeters from the cross, roundabout, depending on how you balance it on your finger. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that, really. It's just not for me. I like my point of balance to be in front of the cross, and sometimes from, you know, talking to other people or just sharing thoughts with them, apparently I'm more on the have it outside the cross than others. That's maybe just a taste thing, really. If, of course, you're looking for a piece that has the POB in the grip, then good news for you, that's the case here. I mean, it works, right? You can use it. But I'm not the biggest fan of that. I just don't like how that feels. That being said, though, again, conclusion time. It's a fine piece. It's a modern piece. It's not trying to emulate anything specifically historic. It's for tournament purposes, and I think for that it's fine, really. It does its job. I wouldn't advise anyone against getting this. It's just, you know what you want and know what you're getting into. And if you just want something that is more affordable, because maybe you're just starting out, or maybe you want some loaner gear for your club, then this one works perfectly fine. And I'll keep using this as just, you know, another dagger that I have, maybe something that I can lend someone, or, you know, depending on whether I want extra protection for the hand or not. So it's fine in that regard. So thumbs up from me. Cheers.